We rejoin you on TC Live. There is a misconception in the public domain that all professional tennis players are wealthy men and women, and that's simply not the case. The players and the tournaments have indeed worked hard over the past 10 years or so to increase prize money for the rank and file players, but there is still inequity between the haves and the have-nots in this sport, and an ongoing debate about the way that prize money should be distributed. Jim, over the next couple days, you're going to lead us in a deep dive into this issue, and hopefully we'll come out a little smarter, a little better informed. Where should we start talking about prize money?
Well, I think we have to start with the best news, which is it's been an amazing era in tennis. I mean, big picture, we've seen incredible growth. We've seen incredible stars, records falling on the court. We've seen investment in the sport in these facilities, including here at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center and other tournaments around. And we've seen record revenue and prize money going into the sport. Oftentimes in America, people come up to me and say, what's wrong with tennis? And I say, nothing. Tennis is doing exceptionally well. It's never done better globally than it is right now. And when you get the men and the women together, Brett, you have a magic formula. And we see it in evidence here at the U.S. Open, not just with the facilities, but also in the growth here. This is demonstrable success here, nearly tripling the total purse compensation to the players. The winner's prize money, nearly $4 million. The U.S. Open has been leading on gender equality from the jump, so this is for both men and women. So it's been a remarkable rise, there's no doubt about it. And the players have been at the table. That's also been a big feature of this story, is that the players Venus has led the charge for equality at Wimbledon. Yep. And she got equal prize money there. And the men have been at the table with the Grand Slam leadership to try and get the prize money up, and they've had success.
So we see the overall purses raising 2.5 to 3-fold over that 10-year stretch. In a vacuum, that sounds like a lot of money. Certainly the winner's prize money has more than doubled, but only 2 people win the tournament. What about the rank and file, the other 254?
Well, that's one of the things that's also been really notable once I've started looking into this, because you see the big champions check and you go, wow, it's amazing. Well, what about the rest? Well, if you see the first 4 rounds, that's where the growth has really been pushed, and rightfully so, because let's pull back big picture here. The players that get to the finals and win these tournaments, that prize money is a blip in the amount of money that they will make over the rest, not only of that year, but the rest of their life. They'll make multiples on the prize money. The people that really need it are the players who are the rank and file players, the players getting into the main draw here the players that lose in the first round may not play in all the big tournaments. These are players that sometimes play in a lot of challenger tournaments that have less than the first round prize money, less than $58,000 in their overall purse for 48 players to compete for. So it's really important that tennis continues to make sure that the players down there are supported. And there's a lot of discussion as I've started to peel the onion on this. There's a lot of things happening under the surface. Yes, politics can be tricky. Yes, there's a lot of friction at times with labor and management. But by and large, they're doing a lot of the right things as far as pushing more money down to the rank and file, and I'm happy about that.
You make a great point about how important that money is to players that lose in the first and second round. I mean, we've shown qualities at a lot of majors over the last couple of years. You want to know why these guys are fighting so hard to just get into the main draws, because 58 grand for a lot of guys, that'll cover your nut for a good chunk of the year.
Yeah, but when we take a look at the prize money leaders and you look through the different levels, it becomes pretty noticeable what's available and what isn't. I mean, when Novak Djokovic is making nearly $16 million, then probably another 30, 40, 50 off the court. Simona Halep as well, giant earnings off the court. You start to dig down to people like Leo Meyer and Levachkova, they're making a good living. Now, the expense levels for these players is very meaningful. These are the prize money leaders. Riley Opelka at 200 in the world last year on the prize money list at 170K should be in the black. Djurak should be in the black, because we know Noah Rubin has talked about how the bare bones expenses for a player trying to grind it out of that level is about $45,000. There are taxes, of course.
And that's with no coach, no physio.
That's bare bones. That's it. But when you get somewhere around 100 in the world, those expenses can be anywhere from sort of $100,000 to $250,000, depending on what the player, how they want to travel. They do receive hotel rooms every week. Some players also get assistance from their federation, so there can be relief. And if you're lucky enough to be from a place like Japan, and you're Yoshi Nishioka, boom, you get a lot.
All right, so let's do kind of the closest apples-to-apples comparison that we have for another sport, and I guess that would be golf.
Well, golf, they have to pay their expenses too. And keep in mind the outsized prize money on the PGA Tour at the top. That's the FedEx Cup, that $10 million bonus they got last year. But what's really notable here is how much the LPGA lags behind the WTA and the earnings. The women, if you're going to be a professional athlete, women's tennis, and you're a female, women's tennis is the most richly rewarded place to be. And I think that's also a big byproduct of us combining our events and making sure that we put our best foot forward, something the golf's not able to do.
What about team sports? Obviously, the first difference that comes to the top of mind is that players in team sports don't have to pay their expenses. They're not paying for a coach. They're not paying for travel, but they also have minimum salaries, which tennis does not.
Yeah, and we're doing a comparison with the player who is number 100 on the earnings list here as compared to these other team sports within the United States, so we can get a feel for that. Because if you're number 100 in the world, you're in the league. Let's say you're kind of like the 11th and 12th player on an NBA team. So you can see that we're actually doing okay in this, but we can do better, and I suspect that we will in the coming years. And again, it's just so notable on the ladies' side, the WNBA, the league minimum 41,000, and women's soccer, that league just taking off right now. Hopefully they'll find some success.
One of the things that all of those pro leagues have is a minor league system that is a feeder into the major leagues, and tennis has that also in effect in challengers and qualies. How are they doing?
Well, I think we've seen a big lift in quali money here. This is the U.S. Open on the left. If you just get into the qualifying, you have to be about 225 in the world to do that. You make $11,000. You do that 4 times a year at the majors, you're pretty much in the black if you're minding your expenses pretty well. And third round qualies, again, 32,000. That is substantial. Personally, I'd like to see more like what we have on the right proposed. Let's bump that up a little bit. Let's give those players a real cushion so they can pursue their dream, because these are the players that are on the cusp of making it to the big leagues, and they're at a disadvantage because they cannot invest in their careers with coaching and physios the way that the players are already inside the top 100 can. I think there's more to be done there on that level. I have thoughts about distributions as far as how much quali should get as a percentage of the whole, and doubles as well. There's a lot to it, and we look forward to getting into more of it here in the next segment.
All right, so those are the facts on how prize money is handed out at the moment. Of course, it can't get handed out until the tournaments earn it. When we come back,